World of Warcraft Shadowlands is launching. Are you prepared? If you're not, I'm going to show you a couple of very cheap ways to get into World of Warcraft Shadowlands at 1080p at either low all the way up to ultra settings for not as much money as you think. Welcome to PC Builder. I'm Jason, and I'm focusing on the upcoming World of Warcraft Shadowlands expansion. How do you get ready for the Shadowlands expansion? Maybe you've never played WoW before. Maybe you're an existing player and you're getting back into the game, or you've been in the game, but your PC just isn't where you want it to be, and you feel like you're playing 8-bit World of Warcraft instead of something that looks like that right there. So today I want to go through a couple of ways on the budget side to get you the FPS you need so you can really enjoy the experience when it comes out on October 26th. Before we jump into it, I just want to say thank you to everybody who continues to support the channel. We're relaunching it. It's going great so far. We're almost up to, I think, 325 subscribers at this time. And if you can, it will really help out if you press the like and subscribe button, hit the bell icon. Definitely hit the like no matter what you do, because that just makes YouTube say, hey, this is a great video. We got to share it with other people. So with that, thank you very much, and let's jump into it. We're going to start at a system that's only $400 to get into World of Warcraft Shadowlands. Now, this is a system, you're not going to have a dedicated graphics card, but you are going to have the most powerful currently, as of the time of this video, the most powerful integrated graphics CPU on the market. This system right here is going to get you 60 frames a second at 1080p settings at either slider number 1 to slider number 4 settings. The slider goes all the way up to 10 in World of Warcraft. 10 is ultra, 1 is the lowest setting. So you're going to get anywhere from the lowest to about the medium settings in dungeons, in raids, as well as open world content. Open world content's a little easier on the processor. There's just not as much going on. This process here will get you started. So maybe you have a nephew, a guildmate, a friend who just wants to get in the game, wants to get in cheap. $400, this does the trick. And we're going with the Ryzen 3400G along with basically the cheapest parts we can assemble this thing. Again, we're going with a Ryzen 5 3400G. The reason we go with this, there is a 3200G. We don't want to go with that because that processor only has 4 cores that can do one thing at a time, so it has 4 threads. And we are getting into a time now when processors have more cores and more threads. I think the minimum you want to buy a brand new processor, you want at least 4 cores and 8 threads. That's called hyper-threading. That means each processor core can walk and chew gum at the same time, basically. With this processor, we're going to pair it with one of the cheapest but best for the money B450 boards, and that's the Gigabyte B450 DS3H. A couple things I like about the board is the fact that it actually does have a heatsink on it, which I think is pretty critical. It also, if you just look right there, it actually has 4 capacitors on the audio section. So anytime you plug in your headset, you're actually getting a much better audio. It does not have great audio, I'm not going to lie to you, but it's much better than other boards in its class. It maybe only have 1 or 2 capacitors. Does only have 1 fan header, so you will likely have to get a fan splitter cable for it. They're $4. I'll show you one at the end here. We are going to pair the motherboard and processor with 2 sticks of DDR4 3000 megahertz memory running at 8 gigabytes each. So 8 plus 8 is 16 gigabytes. So it's a 16 gigabyte kit. You can get faster RAM. You might look at getting a 3200 megahertz kit. This one happens to be just dirt cheap, and we're trying to save a little bit of money. I don't really think you're going to see the difference on a build like this between 32 and 3000. It's not really worth the $5 or $6. So I went for the 3000 speed here. In terms of the storage, we just went the absolute sort by lowest price storage. That's the TC Sunbow 480 gig solid state drive. It's a 2.5 inch drive. There's a number of these out there. There's like some Team Force GX1 and GX2. At this price point, what you're really looking for is 500 gigs of storage and have it be solid state. It's going to be 3 to 4 times faster than a hard drive. There are much better solid state drives you can get for not a ton more. But again, trying to keep this build to $400, these are the compromises we make. honestly, most people will never be able to see the difference. So to this, we're adding our best budget cases. If you just watched that video that came out, I happen to think this is the best budget case on the market. It's the DIY PC F2. It's a micro ATX case. You can't put an ATX, a full-size motherboard in it. But that's why at the budget level, we buy micro ATX motherboards because they're smaller and our case options are more open to us. Because you can always put a small motherboard in a big case, but you can't put a big motherboard in a small case. It's got 2 fans, good airflow. If you want to find out more about this, watch my series on it. I'll put it up here in the card. And let's move on to the next part. Power supply, nothing exciting. The EVGA BR series 500 watt 80 plus bronze. Now, don't just go out and get any power supply. Probably for a system like this, it would be okay. But I want to give you some flexibility to, in the future, be able to put in a dedicated graphics card into this system. So I'm going to get you a power supply with, number one, it's going to deliver enough power. It's going to have decent efficiency rating, but also the internals in this one. This is a power supply that's recommended for budget systems by the Linus Tech Tips PSU Cultist list. And finally, just because the motherboard only has one case fan header, it has one header for the CPU fan and one header for the case fan, we need 2 because we have 2 fans. So I recommend getting this PWM fan splitter cable. It's $4 from Amazon. Then you can plug your 2 fans into one port and control it that way. Okay, so now let's jump up $186, and you're going to get a machine that will play WoW in 1080p on ultra settings. That's number 10 on the slider at least 60 frames a second. So if you have a 60 hertz refresh rate monitor, most people do, then this is going to give you all the frames that you need in 1080p to have an ultra experience. And it's only $186 more than our last build. Let's take a really quick look at what we've got here. So we're going to start off with the Ryzen 3 3100. Now the 3100 is a fantastic processor. It's a 4-core, 8-thread Zen 2 processor. It's a better processor, if you believe it, than the 3200G that I just showed you. They're from different generations. It's a little confusing. Just you're going to have to take my word for it. This is a processor you get for $114, but it does not have integrated graphics. So you cannot just put this into the motherboard and you're all good. You definitely have to get a dedicated graphics card, and that's what we're going to do here. So $114 from Newegg right now. Fantastic processor. We're going to pair this with brand new, hot off the presses, the Gigabyte Aorus A520 Elite. This is an ATX size motherboard, so you can't put it in that nice small white micro ATX case. I'm going to show you a different case for this one, and you'll recognize it if you'd watch my best budget cases. These boards, these A520 boards just came out. In the past, the A-series boards for Ryzen looked like they were the cheapest pile of garbage on the planet, and I would frankly never have used one. Now, however, they're taking aim at, hey, maybe there's a niche here for budget gamers. I really love this. So they've taken the Aorus branded board, which typically you see in the B range or the X range boards, and they brought it down to A520. Now that means you can't overclock this board, but who cares? You're probably not going to overclock this processor, and like 99% of you will probably think about it but never actually do it. So honestly, to me, it's not that much to lose. What you get in exchange is you get for $93 a motherboard with fantastic audio. It has an ALC 1200 series audio codec. That's the second best you can get. The best you can get is the 1220. But still, this is going to produce fantastic audio over any other motherboard in its price class. You also get a fully featured ATX board, so you can plug in plenty of cards and things of that nature in here. You get a ton of system fan headers, so if you want to go wild with your case, I just think for $93, this is a really fantastic option. So what graphics card are we going to pair with that? Well, listen, we actually have quite a few options here. I'm showing you the GTX 1650 Super. Remember, get the Super. Don't ever get the non-Super cards. They're the GTX 1650. Don't ever get the non-Super cards. They're terrible. But you'll have other options. You can get an RX 570, an RX 580, an RX 5500 XT, either the 4 gig or the 8 gig model, I would just buy probably the cheapest of those. It's typically going to be the RX 570 card, but right now I've seen a couple of 580s on sale. The 570s and 580s are 2 generations ago. They're kind of going the way of the dodo, but they are still very good cards for a game like World of Warcraft. So I'm showing you the GTX 1650 Super, another fantastic card. I would just get whatever you can in about the $160 to $170 range. Again, RX 570s you're going to find for about $130, $140. So you can decide on that one. Any of those cards will get you the frame rates we talked about before, which is 60 frames a second, 1080p in ultra settings on slider number 10. Okay, to this GPU and CPU, we're pairing it with some really great storage. This is the Silicon Power A60. It's an M.2 drive. This is one of the, honestly, it doesn't have DRAM on it, so you'd think immediately, if you know anything about SSDs, if you don't, just take my word for it, you think, oh, this is not a great drive. But the HMB, the host memory buffer process on this particular M.2 drive is really fantastic. And when I believe Tom's Hardware tested it, it actually came out ahead of some of the drives with DRAM on it. So to me, there's no better budget drive to buy right now. Although at the 1 terabyte level, if you're going to go up to 1 terabyte, I did see the Kingston A2000 drive within a couple of dollars of this one. And if that's the case, get the Kingston A2000. But that's like a $20 or $30 discount on that other drive. And then with 3rd gen Ryzen, of course, we want to pair it with DDR4 3200 memory. I would go 3200 or 3600 for this. Don't overspend on the memory. 3200 CL16 is just as good, frankly, as 3600 CL18. That's the cheaper one that you'll find. And the 3200 kit is a little cheaper. So I would go with a kit like this. And you definitely want to get 16 gigs, but consider 32. 32 is increasingly becoming the standard. 16 is still absolutely fine. But consider 32, especially if you ever want to do, content creation, things of that nature. All right, with this, we're pairing the Zalman S2. You can also get the Zalman S3 right now. It happens to be out of stock, but I actually like the S3 a little better. But both of these cases come with great airflow. They each come with 3 pre-installed 120 millimeter fans in them. And these are full ATX tower cases. So you can, of course, fit in the ATX size motherboard that we were speccing earlier. I think they look pretty good. They are acrylic on the side. They're not glass. I did go over these cases in some detail in my best budget cases, so we'll leave it there. And if you want to find out more, go ahead and watch that video. And finally, we're pairing this with the same exact power supply we paired our last system, which is the EVGA BR Series 500 watt 80 plus bronze. So that's our video for today. If you're looking forward to getting into World of Warcraft Shadowlands, but you want to play at 1440p or a higher resolution, I'm going to do a second video where we're going to go over some more expensive builds. This is really just to get you in there. If you've got $400, if you've got almost $600, how do you get into World of Warcraft and have playable frame rates, have a great time with your friends, and not feel like you're playing 8-bit World of Warcraft on a potato? So if you enjoyed the video, please absolutely give me a like, give me a subscribe. We're starting to relaunch the channel. It helps out so much. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.